No matter where you live, how you live, what you do, or what shape or fashion you are living in, electronics are going to affect your life in some form or fashion. And I personally find this very interesting. I've written multiple research papers, and I have constructed simple circuits and simple robotics to go along with said research papers. Now, for the everyday person, this affects them because everyone is affected by it. They all have this little handheld device that goes around with them no matter what. And inside that device is what's called a transistor. And for today, I'm going to show you how those came about, why those were changed the landscape as they did, and how they changed the future and are still constantly innovating. Let's begin with why they came about. Before the transistor was the vacuum tube. And as Salsuado R. Doss, a scientific writer for the scientific community, says, vacuum tubes were large, bulky, and unreliable. As shown here, this is the NEIAC, and it houses 18,000 vacuum tubes, and it takes up the span of a whole room. It's 100 feet long, 10 feet high, and 3 feet deep. And it takes about 8 people to run. Just one simple calculation. Now today that looks incomparable, but back then this was how they lived. Now another writer, Michael Royden of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer, said that vacuum tubes were unreliable, that whenever you wanted to switch them off, they wouldn't switch off at times, and furthermore, they would constantly fail. Now, in order to combat all of this, innovation was needed, and this innovation came in the form of the transistor. The transistor, as told by Bob Pease, who has 40 years of experience in electronics, was the best thing to happen, because transistors were 100 times stronger, more reliable, smaller, more flexible, and more durable. They could survive harsher conditions than the vacuum tube, and they could survive more force. And they were able to do a million things better than the vacuum tube. As shown here, this is the TRADIC. This was the transistor's take on a computer. And as you can see, it only took up this one 3-foot section of a wall and took 2 people to run. It was a lot simpler and easier and a lot smaller because the transistor was about 10 times smaller than the vacuum tube. Overall, the transistor changed how electronics were formed. Now lastly, the way we see transistors are today is amazing. Transistors have shrunk more and more as the years have gone by. As Bill Gates says, without the transistor, the PC would not exist as we know it today. And that's very simply put, because every processor, as shown here, this is AMD's processor EPIC series, nicknamed Rome, has 39.54 trillion transistors. This shows how they have shrunk more and more and become more powerful throughout the years. Now, all in all, transistors are, so to put it, innovation that excites. But that only came about when there was a problem. Vacuum tubes were unreliable, bulky, and they just needed a change. In order for this change were the transistors, and transistors changed everything. And as the years have gone by, they become more and more just better and wonderful and smaller. And that is why they are the change that changed the world.